I mean, there already exists like fully AI podcasts. And I just think, what is the point?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know if I can swear on your show, but I'm like, what is the fucking point of having it at all?
Well, that was the whole point of long form content, right? It was supposed to be the most genuine, raw human conversations. And if you can have them with AI, then what are we doing? You know? Folks, I am pleased to announce that today we celebrate 1 year of Love's Music. For the last 50-some episodes, I've been talking to amazing creatives, artists, creators from all states, different countries, and to celebrate them, I'm bringing on the one person that makes it all happen. My producer, engineer, podcast managing guru, all the way from Chicago, Angelina Gurrola. If you've been enjoying the show, please send me your comments, send me your feedback, like, subscribe, and by all means, please tell somebody who loves music. Up next, Angelina Gurrola. Angelina, have you here celebrating the 1 year anniversary of the day that we started this project. And I'm so, this is really good. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It's been surreal. I can't believe I'm here right now.
It feels like a month or two we were like trying to like iron out the particulars of like our arrangement and how we're going to do episodes. And now we have like 50 plus of them. It's wild.
Yeah, I think this will be 53, no?
Yeah, this will be 53. Yep. Kat's 52, you're 53. Yeah. I mean, you have a killer business. You've been a dream to work with. I know that you have a ton of different shows and hosts that you work with. Two-part question. Who's your favorite host and why is it me?
I could have seen that one coming, couldn't I? Yeah. The reason you're my favorite, wink, wink, is because this is the only show on my roster that has anything to do with music. And for me, that was fun. Even like when we first talked like over a year ago at this point of like the possibility of us doing this podcast together, like I was intrigued right away because most of the shows that I work on, they're like business owners. I used to do a lot of podcasts in the finance space. So this was like just a really refreshing change because this is also like the world that I come from. And I was excited because I felt like I could help give that perspective as well and like connect it to the podcast. And this has been a fun collaboration. Like very, very happy to have been a part of this with you.
Yeah, I want to talk about, because you have, there's like the musical side, there's you, then there's also the entrepreneur. I kind of want to start by talking about the entrepreneur because your business, joking aside, you do have a very, by objective standards, a successful business. So I want to talk a little bit about what that's been like for you, because obviously, I mean, you're supporting yourself with your podcast production business now called Wildwave. How did you get that off the ground?
Well, it comes from music, actually, because this is going to date me heavily, but I graduated college in May of 2020. So 2020, obviously, we know what went on. That was like, I just didn't know what the job market was looking like at that time. But because I was a music producer before then, like throughout college, a little bit past college, I was making beats, I was producing. I was sometimes like mixing songs for other people. And then I went into DJing. But because I had that experience, the quickest route for me to get out of a household of 6 people to 1 bathroom was editing podcasts for podcasters. And in 2020, everybody had a podcast. Everybody was starting a podcast. It was hot in 2020. So at the time, it was like a survival thing. I was just like, I need space. I need autonomy. I don't want to share a bunk bed with my cranky 13-year-old sister. So that was just the way that I was making money quickly. And so it evolved into like a much bigger thing that is now Wildwave Podcasting.
All right.
Since the rebrand.
So I am a potential content creator looking to work with you, and we have an elevator ride together, and you have basically that elevator ride to tell me, why should I trust you with my art and my creation above anybody else?
I would say I have had so much industry experience in podcasting from so many different angles as well as my own personal experience with my like one-on-one clients, I am able to help you hone your concept and connect it to whatever you are also selling very well. That's something that I've really honed. And my process has also improved so much in the past few years. One of my strengths, I would say, is like allowing you the space to figure out the strategy that works best for you and trying to meet you in the middle of like what you are truly capable of and what you have the capacity for in your life, in your business, and merge that with the podcast. That's always something that like we've tried to do together, Julian, and connect what we could with your other endeavors and your presence online to what you are trying to build here. And I just think I'm really cool and funny and fun to work with.
Yeah.
And I like working with cool and funny people. That's like always the best part of my job for me.
Yeah.
So that's why you should work with me.
Yeah. So I can personally vouch for that entire testimony. For me, I know that I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I know what I wasn't looking for. I didn't want anyone to sell me dreams. I didn't want like false enthusiasm, just like happy to get a client. But what I was looking for was like that right enthusiasm and professionalism. And I remember you being genuinely excited about the project. Your plan was so finite and specific. I'm looking at this, I'm like, there's no way that this can fail. You know, so it was like, that was like the 1-2 punch for me that just, by the time you and I were actually like planning episodes, it was a no-brainer. There's no trepidation. It was so comfortable. It might as well have been like you and I had known each other for 5 or 6 years by the time we started.
It felt that way. It's crazy. I feel like we just like clicked very, very quickly. And I've like worked with a lot of people like you in the music industry. And so I felt very at home working with you. Like I felt like I know you just like in my regular life. Like I feel like I might run into you like if I was out and about or something. So yeah, it felt good for me in the beginning too. And like your particular like enthusiasm about podcasting, I was like, that is a drive and a determination that I want to be around and somebody who I would like to work with because you've been so consistent. You've been so incredibly consistent. And usually like I'll have clients who they're like really passionate in the beginning, but then things get hard and they kind of like, you know, maybe they start to fall off or something. They want to like take a break for a while. And I'm sure you're probably getting to that point where it's like, all right, let's like stop and evaluate for a second. But it is really, really cool that you have not missed a week in this first full year. Like that is an incredible accomplishment.
Oh, well, thank you. That's like, I mean, I have you to thank for it too. There's something I didn't want to ask because I didn't want people to think I was like stealing it from Whitney Cummings' podcast, but she always starts her podcast by asking the guest, "Are we friends?" Right? And I was like, and it tripped me out because I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, let's say you and I decide to, you know, part ways amicably in May. We'd have worked together for about 14 months, 60 some episodes. And I was like, I can't get over how little we actually know about each other, right? Because it's all just been about the show, right? Like my album, I know, like I was like in my engineer's wedding, like the people I made albums with, you know, like they were in my wedding, you know. So like for us to make what I consider art for like a year together, and I'm like, I know nothing about this girl. Would be wild. Yeah.
That is always really funny on my end of things because I feel like I know my clients very well because I'm working on their content all the time. And so in some ways it's kind of like a one-sided relationship. Like I will listen or watch your content almost every week, but you can't say the same about me. It's just our like regular check-ins on Mondays and Wednesdays when we're like, all right, here's the next episode. Yeah. Let me know if there's something you want to change. Like we have found our weekly groove really well. And I'm a creature of habit. So that has been really nice for me. Just like knowing when I'm slotting your time into my week. And so that I always like have enough time for your stuff.
Funny story about that. So every Thursday, right? True story. My mom and dad eat dinner and watch the podcast without fail every Thursday. And every Friday.
Number one fans love to see it.
Yeah, every Friday I get a text from my mom. I loved Jasmine's episode. I loved Michael's episode. Like whatever that I get like a synopsis from my mom. And my mom has no gauge of like who's famous and not. So it's like I'll do like a guitar player from like Winnipeg's episode, and then my mom will be like, "You should get Bad Bunny on your podcast next. He would probably be a good person." I'm like, "Mom, there's
Would
nothing."
I love that? Wouldn't I love that?
Yeah, right. I'm embellishing a little bit, but it's just funny, like but what you're saying, like the routine is good though, you know.
Yeah, you'd have to learn Spanish so quick to be able to get him on here, though.
I would use every AI app. I'd get the headphones where you could talk. Yeah.
Yeah, get your Duolingo on.
Yeah.
That's so, yeah.
No,
I love that. I love that for you. And I know like over time, the audience that you have developed around this show do seem to be very engaged and very loyal, because it comes from, you know, not only the people who find you from your life or organically on social media, but it comes from past guests too. And I feel like that is one of the strongest things about the way that you've created this show, is that the past guests can now be a community to each other. And that's the way that musicians work, you know, like we're all, once we meet somebody and we really understand their vibe, we like their sound, you know, you can stay in touch with people for such a long time because you were 100%. Like connected at some point in the music industry, you know, and I don't really see that replicated as much in other industries personally.
There's something weird and intimate about making art together. You know, like once you've like written a song together, you know what I mean? Or like performed together, there's like a weird, like bond you have with somebody, as opposed to like we fixed a car together, or we, you know, I don't know, we were accountants in the same office, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have that myself with my own, you know, network, and just like all the people who I've gotten to play gigs with, the people who I still get to run into when I'm out, and the people that I haven't run into for a while, you know, like they've still like made their mark on me, and I'll still like want to keep up with what they're doing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a special thing.
That's interesting you say that too, because I actually found myself not attempting to like flex about the show, but just passively just talking about actually how you impacted me from like a business standpoint. I'm like, you guys got to see how my engineer just like operates and like moves professionally. I mean, forget like the editing and the mixing and everything, just like the consistency and the structure and how we have everything like planned out, and the way we leveraged a couple apps to make sure there's like, I mean, we don't even use email. Like we have a plan. We text a little bit and then next thing you know, and then just like clockwork, our shows come out. And I was bragging about that, not even trying to flex about my show, but just like talking about you passively. I'm like, oh, it's like I mean, you're never going to hear a third party compliment from someone in my circle. I mean, you're states away, so. Yeah.
That means a lot. That makes me really happy. Yeah, I'm glad that it's been smooth for you. And I literally next week I'm going to be talking to you about like, all right, let's make some things a little bit smoother, because me and my like systems brain, I want to optimize everything, and I feel like there's just certain things that are like a little clunky that I want to fix. And I have, that'll be another conversation though.
Sweet.
Maybe offline.
so here's the thing. Obviously you're good at what you do. Give me an example of something that's been like a huge challenge for you. Like something you're like, that caught you off guard, or something that you're just like, I just hate this part of it. I can't imagine anything being difficult for you.
Oh, I mean, 2025 in general was a rough year for my business. Like there were a lot of things that I was investing in and had to have a lot of faith in. Like, all right, this is going to work out. And I had to make some changes like internally for like what I was paying for. I realized in my growth as like a business owner and as a leader, there were just like certain conversations I had to have with myself. Like, okay, this is not how we are going to like sustainably build this if I can't even make these key decisions about like finances, you know, like the amount of different hats that you have to wear as a business owner. As a musician, you are a business owner. So I'm sure those of you who are listening can relate to this as well. Even if you don't like make a full-time living off of your music or whatever, like you are thinking as a marketer, you're thinking as a, CFO, like a operations person, you're thinking of like the actual delivery process of your like product and services to people. And yeah, there were decisions that I had to make to grow from freelancer to CEO. Like that mental identity shift was something that was really, really tough for me last year in 2025. And I feel like just now there are things that I'm learning that I'm like, this would have made things much easier 2 years ago when I was struggling to figure this out. But like, there are certain shifts and changes that you make that you can't rush. You have to get there. You have to like make the mistakes. You have to learn.
Yeah.
And then in retrospect, things seem obvious. But obviously in the moment when you're going through like harder times of indecision or a lot of like transitions and change, like it's not obvious in the moment. You just have to give it time.
In retrospect, how do you feel this has changed you as a person?
I feel so much more calm in my viewpoint in things. And I feel like I have so much more ability in expressing myself. And I have a lot more faith in my own decision making, which is something you really, really must have as a business owner, because you do have to make a lot of hard decisions. And sometimes like putting off making a decision for too long puts you in a bad place. So I feel like I am much better at understanding what my needs are in business. I feel like I can handle like harder conversations with myself and with other people, with clients potentially, knowing that like, sometimes things are just like a little bit weird for a second, but then we get past it,
I'm glad you talk about that. A lot of people do talk about like guts in business and like being able to trust your gut, your instincts. And one of the big things, and you hear this with a lot of like millionaires, billionaires, they talk about speed. You want to move fast, you want to be early, you want to be quick. But if you do that, you don't really have the luxury of certainty, right? Mm-hmm. It's easy to sit and analyze a decision for a year and want to have all the decisions and everything researched and then make a decision. But that's not really a luxury you have when you're trying to like build, you're trying to grow, you're trying to move, you're trying to be agile. In doing so, can you give me an example of maybe a mistake you made, or you made a decision, you're like, I wish I would have had that one back?
From a legal standpoint, I incorporated my business way too soon. And that is actually something that I'm undoing at the moment. And it's like long and it's tedious. But back in 2023 or something, I was bringing in more money. And I fell victim to this marketing that told me that I needed to turn my business into an S-corp. And if you don't know what an S-corp is, it's basically like a type of organizational entity for LLCs. So you're still an LLC, but you are taxed like an actual corporation. And so I was on payroll for myself for a while. And that was actually the start of a lot of financial trouble in my business, where I was unable to make my own payroll that was, being deposited every 2 weeks, because I would have certain months where maybe I was launching a show and so the revenue went up. And then there would be other times when like maybe a client took a pause that I wasn't anticipating and revenue went down. And so I was unable to stabilize those ups and downs. And really my mistake was not so much like going into that arrangement, because the information I had at the time was telling me that that's what I should do. And so I don't regret that. But it took me way too long to realize that this was not sustainable. Right. Like I was too scared of the logistics of changing it, because I was like, oh, well, I already made this decision. Now I have to go along with it. It's like the cost fallacy. You know what that is? Exactly that. So it was like, I was like, it was out of sheer laziness. And it was also like kind of blind optimism. I was like, well, I just need to like, bring in more and then this will be fine. But in reality, like it just wasn't going to be a sustainable option for me. And I didn't need to set myself up to be that stressed about cash flow every single month. And so it was actually like 2 or 3 months ago where I like almost in an instant made the decision. And I was like, no, I have to do that. Like, yeah, you have to plug the leak so that you can,
stop the bleeding. Yeah.
Stop the bleeding. And then you can focus on filling it all up. But like, it's kind of like the first step in any like personal finances. Like if you were paying all these unnecessary expenses, you're just setting yourself up for more hardship. You might as well just like lower your expenses so that you can then bring in more money. So that was tough for me.
Or at least divert the funds to levers that are actually
exactly. Creating. And now I get to do that. Like I am almost finally in the space where I can meaningfully reinvest again because I dealt with all of that. And the logistics weren't even that bad. Like I could have saved myself so much time and headache if I had just made this decision sooner.
Like your perceived difficulty was like super inaccurate.
Yes. Yes. Especially when you break things up into smaller tasks, like it wasn't actually that bad. So learn from my mistakes. If you know you have a tough decision to make, just do it. Just get it over with sooner.
When it comes to adding people to your team, what are some of like the core traits you look for before you decide you want to work with somebody in a business setting?
Definitely somebody who's responsive, like bare minimum. Sometimes things come up and sometimes we have to change things really quickly. And so somebody who is able to respond to that. I'm not trying to own anybody's time. This is not an employee situation, but like when you are a business owner and you start bringing on clients and you realize how much additional time you need to spend not only delivering for the clients, but also marketing and doing all those other roles that I just talked about. Like you realize quickly that you can't handle everything on your own and you're going to need to bring somebody in who can at least own their part of it. Responsiveness, obviously quality work, because I hold my work to a high standard and I want my clients to hold me to a high standard. You know, like I always do want to improve on like what I'm delivering. And so if I work with somebody, like I'm obviously trusting them with a piece of the pie. And I just want them to be able to spot certain things and use best judgment. Like, all right, this is a section that we should probably cut and get rid of, you know, and who can inform me like, hey, this guest's audio was not that great today. I did what I could. Or like, hey, they brought up this resource. You should probably put it in the show notes, like that type of thing, you know? So just like a little bit of proactivity and reliability. Nothing crazy, you know? And I try to do the same for them. I try to communicate as well as I can. You know, pay everyone well. Like, that's important.
How has the way you perceive success changed over the years from, say, when you first started to currently?
I think at first I had very modest ideas of what I would want because at the time, my standards were like, just want to live alone, like just want to move out. That was like the only thing I was shooting for at the time. And with each passing year showing me how inflation works, I realized that like really more needs to be done to like grow over time, not to hoard, but you know, I do want to enjoy the fruits of my labor, you know? And so I would love to see like my salary grow. I would love to support my partner more with what I'm bringing in. And I want to be able to say yes to more things that like truly bring me joy.
Yeah.
And that's really like, that's what success is to me. It's like, I want to have a fun time during the day, talking with clients who are doing amazing things, talking with other business owners who are doing amazing things, and not be worried about money. That's like... That's the dream for everybody.
So speaking of joy, what are some of the things you like to do when you're not building businesses and making cool art projects?
Is this the pivot to the music?
A little bit. My not so smooth segue. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I do still DJ, and that is probably always going to be with me because DJing to me is such a beautiful way to like pay respects to the artists who came before you and to curate something for people, bringing in things that might be seemingly unrelated, but when they're placed next to each other in context, people get it and it makes people move. Like that is such a fun thing for me and something that I would like to make space for more as the business gets more successful and I can kind of like mentally detach myself from it a little bit more, it would be so that I can give myself more space to do music stuff, you know, because being in a growth phase, it's kind of hard to allow myself to do something that's like purely creative, purely for me.
Where did your creativity, I guess, spawn from? Was it really young as like a kid? Was it as a teenager?
Definitely like so early. My mom put me in piano lessons when I was 4 or something. And so it was ingrained in me quite early, like how you're reading sheet music, how you're, you know, counting and staying on beat. You know, I was classically trained. And so I was composing piano music from a very young age. And that was like a huge emotional release for me. And so that just developed into so many other different genres that I have grown to love so much. Yeah, and they each like have accompanied me through like a specific season of life. Until I started experimenting with like other ways of making music. So, you know, I was a pianist for the majority of my childhood through my adulthood. And then I started channeling that into music production. So actually, you know, electronically making beats, using synths. Yeah. A lot of that stuff, like sampling music, that was a big thing for me for a few years. And now finally as a DJ, and I also play bass.
So which artists have like really inspired you early on and then like work all the way up?
I feel like some of the first memories I remember of like enjoying music for myself were like classic rock, like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. I was listening to like my hand-me-down iPod Nano and listening to Dark Side of the Moon as an 11-year-old, feeling very moody. Yeah, and I graduated more into this like kind of like 70s era funk and soul. That is like my true base, where like my sense of rhythm comes from. It's like that type of music. And then it eventually grew into like hip hop, electronic music, dance music, house music, techno. Yeah. Like I feel like everything just ended up getting faster and faster tempo wise for me as I grew older.
I was a little late to like the dance music party, but there's some stuff. I'm actually going to see Bob Moses on the 18th.
Nice. That'll be very fun.
Yeah, let's do it. Who excites you now? I give you a ticket to go see anybody at any venue in your area. You're like, I'm going to see them.
Harry Chandler is like my very favorite house DJ.
Really?
Like the stuff that he does with tapes, I just find his mixes so euphoric and like meditative almost. And I also really, really love like this slightly faster Detroit style techno music that is like in the like 150 to 170 BPM range. And like, that's pretty fast. It's pretty fast, but like, it's usually in those spaces where you'll like look around and you'll see people like live dancing, like the footwork, you know, and like shuffling in the middle of the dance floor. And I just feel like that is such a invigorating physical space to be in with the music. I mean, so many, so many. I feel like I should have brought a list coming into this because
I'm just like listening. I'm like, oh, you have to ask more questions. I'm just like listening to you like nerd out on music. That's what I do.
That's what this show is for, right? Yeah.
I know, right? Were your parents musicians as well, or?
No, they were not.
Really?
They were not.
They just kind of like would just like push you in that direction of like creative stuff.
Yeah. They were very passionate about like just making sure we had different outlets as kids, which is something I'm like eternally grateful for.
Absolutely.
You know, and they like pushed us to really find things that interested us. They were always making us, you know, read a lot of books, you know. And I'm very glad that I was given the space to explore that part of my identity very early because it's still a part of me.
Are you still close to your folks?
Yeah.
Super close?
I might send this to them.
Okay, I hope you do. Shout out Mr. and Ms. Gurrola. So were you a shy kid or pretty extroverted?
I was definitely extroverted. I mean, I was always saying something that I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I was definitely
mouthy.
Big mouth kid. I had to learn to zip it later in life for sure.
Like, were you pretty cool?
I don't know. I think so. I hope so. And then I'll like look at my younger siblings now and I'm like, no, they're cool. They're very cool.
I'm the opposite. Like, I think I'm cool. And then I see my dad and I'm like, you are not cool at all compared to.
Yeah, definitely can compare yourself to like members of your family who you love dearly.
Yeah. Right. Well, so what was your neighborhood like growing up? Were you like a suburb area? Were you like actually in the city?
I was in the city of Chicago, but it was a neighborhood that was a little bit more remote. Like we were in the city limits, but it may as well have been a suburb, if not for the zip code, you know? So it was like, it was a nice little residential area. We got to ride bikes a lot. I was actually homeschooled until high school. So I spent a lot of time outside. I never told you this, huh?
No, didn't know you were homeschooled. Do you wish you had like a public school experience, or were you like, no, being homeschooled was pretty dope?
Well, I went to public high school, so that was my. I think I had my experience. It was a learning curve for me socially, but you know, everyone was having their awkward phase in that time anyway. So.
A question I wanted to ask you about too. Obviously, we always see each other on our socials, and because of the way the show is, I try to stay away from religion and politics. You're clearly a little bit more outspoken. Do you feel like I may be making a mistake by not being as outspoken about religion or politics on my show?
Not necessarily. I think that everybody deserves to decide what works for themselves. I think that if you ever felt so called to, there would be a space for that, but you also open yourself up to more criticism. And I don't think that everybody needs to intentionally put themselves in that place before they're ready, or even if at all. A lot of people make more of a impact in their spaces and their communities offline. And so I kind of take issue with the like everybody should just be like speaking up all the time, because everybody has different things that are important to them personally. And not all change is made by screaming online. Like a lot of change can be made through in-person conversations and actions that aren't publicized. So I think that you deserve to determine that for yourself. And I also think there's power in like showcasing people's stories regardless of that. Like even if somebody disagrees with you, like I have certain like moral hard lines for myself because I like to somewhat operate in a similar sense of reality to the people who I regularly interface with. And so there's certain people that I won't work with at this stage just because we get to be a little closer, we get to be very close. And so those are standards that I have for myself personally. But I think everybody gets to decide what that means for themselves.
Do you think such a, I guess, polarizing atmosphere is going to have a positive or negative effect on our podcast spaces?
Some of the most popular podcasts are the most polarizing pieces of media I've ever heard and ever laid eyes on, And so I don't want those voices to dominate the podcasting industry if there are other people who can come in and add different perspectives that are not backed by a ton of media and backed by a ton of funding. Because when you look at the top 10 podcasts, a lot of them are incredibly polarizing and incredibly harmful. And so I feel like it is important for other stories to be told. And there's also a recognition that if you want to use your podcast as a place to explore your belief systems and explore your ideology through the way that you move through the world, socially and politically, there's going to be people who are very drawn to that. And it might be a faster way of finding your people. And there's other people who will be equally repelled by that and might leave some nasty comments or whatever, but ultimately they will not stay in your circle. And so I also do believe there are certain safety cues that you can give off to people who are listening. And they're especially if you're selling to them, if you're a service provider and you're using podcasting to bring your people towards you to make sales, sometimes your clients want to know where you stand on things.
True.
And I've found for myself that I would like people to know where I stand. It's like more obvious on my website now when people come to work with me, but I'm only deciding that for myself.
I think you present in a very classy and professional way. Your views are understood, they're clear, but they're not forced. Which is, I think that's the right cocktail, if I may.
I also think like it can be exhausting very quickly if you set yourself up to have to argue with everybody.
Yeah, right.
Because that's also it's not going to be productive. Like if we're in a space where we're thoughtfully disagreeing, there might be some headway that we make with each other, heavily dependent on so many things. But some people, I believe, get very loud about their beliefs and it almost shuts down conversation. Right. When there might just be more nuance to certain things where we might be agreeing with each other 80%, but that last 20% is something that we can, discuss and understand a little bit more without trying to fight each other.
I mean, that's always been the problem with a bipartisan system, right? You have to believe 100% of this side or 100% of that side.
Yeah, it's very binary, all or nothing. And I feel like that definitely trickles down just into the way that we have conversations with each other.
I mean, I straddle the fence a little bit where when it comes to art, if you want to just be a breath of fresh air and a break from all that, you certainly can be. I think where it gets a little hairy is when your platform becomes so big. Then the question becomes, well, don't you have an obligation to point out egregious social injustices because you have such a large platform? You know what I mean? You've been supported by this certain group of people. And if this group of people that is supporting you has then been disenfranchised, you have an obligation to then speak up. And that's when it gets a little hairy there. You know what I mean? So I'm creating this thing, but I'm a painter, and this cause that has nothing to do with painting, I now have to, make this.
It's difficult because on a moral level, I agree with that statement, and I do look at certain people who have all this power and influence, and I'm like, where are you? Like, there's so much that you could do by making your stance clear on certain things. On a moral level, I do agree with that. On a practical level, I do think it's more complicated. It does get hairy.
Well, hopefully that's a problem I have where my podcast is so big.
Yeah. I think people could be widening their perspective in understanding that everything is connected politically, socially, like these things are deeply intertwined. And so when people believe that their topic has nothing to do with issues, that they're separate from those things, I do push back on that a little bit because everything in our life is political. Things do connect. And so there is always a way to like thoughtfully give your perspective on something should you feel called to in the way that it relates to what you talk about. Music is so political. Music is the backbone of so many different movements. There's so much space in there.
I mean, it literally defined your social status, at least for me anyway, from like first grade to like your first year of college. It's like who you listen to. That's how you dressed. That's who you hung out with. That's what you listened to. That's how that basically determined how much and which drugs you did, or if you did them, it determined your social circle,
Absolutely. And like the genres of music that would get, funneled towards a certain audience versus another audience, based on who was making that music is very political. Like the way that music has been marketed and funded and, distributed over time, that's very political. Streaming services, the way that they pay artists, that's political. Like there's so much there.
But even the way casual music fans perceive other groups based on the music that represents them. Mm-hmm. It paints like it almost like paints the stereotypes or it paints this group's ideology with like very broad strokes. So like, oh, that's what they all believe. That's what they all think over there, Yeah. Which is rarely the case, Where do you see music headed based on what you're seeing trend-wise in, say, the last 6 months to a year? If you're looking at what was hot the end of the year, what was hot the beginning of this year, if we had to look at the fall, like what trajectory do you think music's coming? Like what's going to be like the big genre that everyone's...
I mean, I don't think I I'm in a place to really predict that
Really?
because, I mean, the circles I'm in, I feel like are very specific, and I see different trends come and go in like the DJ and producer spaces that I'm in. Like there was a time where people were like sampling and making a lot of like piano beats, or they were really into like jungle music and like D&B and like getting really fast in things. And so you started seeing a lot of artists in my spaces like experimenting with these genres that were a little bit more hot at the time.
Right.
But I like a lot of the music that I appreciate, especially in a live setting, is very timeless.
Yeah, that actually is true.
You know, in that either they're like sampling things that are very old and giving them new light in like a different context, or, you know, we're like revitalizing genres themselves that have kind of been dormant for a little bit, you know, like house music is having more of like a resurgence now in the pop space. Whereas before it was kind of more just something like my parents' generation loved in Chicago and Detroit, you know, like it was a little bit less mainstream. So I don't have my finger on the pulse of like true pop trends. I just don't.
Really?
This is only like my niche.
Yeah, I like to think I do, and then I realize exactly how old I am, and I'm like, you're probably wrong. But I mean, you figure you can't go by what's at the Grammys because that's what's hot now, which means it's not going to be hot in 6 to 8 months. So I guess if I don't know if it's just my algorithm or if that's actually a good litmus test, but like I'm seeing like I thought metal was going to be real hot soon. It still could be rising, but I saw all these like really cool hard rock bands like Williams Band and Quinn's, like who I did like bands like that are starting to get like steam. So I could see like there being like this like metal resurgence.
And that is so far away from my world. Like I could never say that because I don't listen to any of that. So
I will tell you the female and black faces in hard rock. Like I'm seeing like more and more just like hard rock bands, just like 4 black dudes from Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really see a ton of that until like 10 years ago. You know?
That's political.
There are black people playing hard rock music.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's always been that, but that doesn't get popularized as much.
Yeah, but like I'm starting to see, I mean, I think the hottest band right now is like 3 Mexican Sisters, you know, the Warning. And like I think they're going to be the biggest band in the world next year.
It so depends on your context and perspective. Like that's what's fascinating about all this, you know?
Right. Yeah. Really cool. So what do you see with the emergence of AI, like you said, politics? What do you see actually happening in the podcast space in the next 12 to 18 months?
I mean, there already exists like fully AI podcasts.
Yeah.
And I just think, what is the point?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know if I can swear on your show, but I'm like, what is the fucking point of having it at all?
Well, that was the whole point of long form content, right? It was supposed to be the most genuine, raw human conversations. And if you can have them with AI, then what are we doing? You know?
Yeah. I mean, in general, like I'm very cautious about my usage of it because of all the like ethical implications. That being said, there are usages of it that are very beneficial, especially as like a business owner who is super stretched thin. If there are things that it can do, not just faster, but also a little bit better, or it can fill in the gaps sometimes. That's when I'm going to use it, like only if it's really truly in the best interest of me and my clients, you know? So I try to have like better discernment on like, am I using it just because I want to like, you know, outsource, you know, a harder process and I just don't want to be uncomfortable? Or is it, or could I use it so that I'm like genuinely freeing myself up a little bit more so that I can do other deeper work, you know?
Like watching a machine-generated conversation for intimacy is like watching a screensaver of the beach to replace being at the beach.
Yeah.
Like the point is to actually experience the thing. Yeah.
Totally shits on the entire, just any integrity, like any reason that we would create anything. Just why? Like, are people watching it? Maybe just other AIs are streaming it. I don't know. I choose to not align myself with that side of the industry.
Yeah.
I want my messaging to attract people who are in this for like strategic reasons and also artistic reasons.
Well, speaking of that, let's say the generation behind you, a little bit confused and misguided young lady sees what you're doing and they say, Angelina, I want to get plugged in. I want to build something similar to what you're building. What advice would you have for them?
You're going to have to move quickly on things that you are not good at yet.
Yeah.
And that is going to have to be okay. Like, you need to kill the perfectionism very quick. And you need to allow yourself to make mistakes and try different things before you decide exactly what's, right for you. And this is my perfect system. And like, this is the perfect type of client that I would like to work with. Like, I feel like there are certain lessons in business that are simply a rite of passage. Like, everyone has to go through it where they have like a really bad client,
Yeah.
Like, everybody has to go through a situation where like maybe somebody didn't want to pay you.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully you don't have to have all those bad experiences, but there's certain things that you just simply can't anticipate until you're in them. And then you learn from those things and you continue to move forward.
It's the business owner equivalent of playing a bad gig.
Yeah. There's so many connections there,
Yeah.
My advice applies to everybody, not just girls on that.
Right. Yeah.
You have to be comfortable with being messy and taking action anyway, and understanding that certain things are just going to need to wait till later. Like, your branding is not the priority in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't do your branding yourself, you just have to be content with it being ugly for a minute. And then later on, there's a better time to slot certain things in. So like, doing things in somewhat of the right order will also serve you very well. So like, the first thing would probably just be like, make sure that your service, like the offer that you're offering, is good. You can't bring people in to an offer that's bad. You can't like have really good marketing and then just have a lot of traction, but what you're delivering is bad.
This is such gold. As somebody who's tried many things and failed at many things, I'm like, yep, that's right. That's correct. It's like people want to invest their energy in what they're good at as opposed to what is required. And it's like, if you're trying to sell t-shirts and you're great at designing t-shirts, but you have no customers, stop designing t-shirts. The t-shirts are good enough. Focus on getting customers, And
you need to understand where that applies to your situation too, because if you spend all your time trying to find people to buy your t-shirts, but the t-shirts are crap,
right?
You might make a little money at the beginning, but like, your reputation might catch up to you. Maybe t-shirts are a bad example because there are really bad companies that sell bad products, but mostly business owners who are providing a service. And like, this also applies to musicians, like, if you are providing a service, maybe you do studio work for people, or you do production work for people. Like, you need to make sure that your craft and your musicianship is good enough to be able to sell it,
Right.
And then you can start thinking about, how do I get all these clients and opportunities, Like, you do have to do that thing well first. Like, if you don't make good songs, it doesn't matter how many streams you get. You can't focus on getting the streams only if you don't know how to make music yet.
Yeah, I think I said that 2 or 3 podcasts ago. I was like, you have artists that are like, I have all these great songs. I'm like, no one's heard them because you have no social media presence.
Yeah, I remember that.
I post every day.
But the songs aren't good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to be very honest with yourself, like what point you're at. In some scenarios, you're going to have to do a lot of things at once, because unfortunately, like, you still need to make the money and get the traction, like, while things are still being built. But like, understand what phase you're in, like, understand what part of that like puzzle gets the majority of your attention, the majority of your investment. And then when that is good, you can move on to the next big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Gems.
I could have told myself that a year ago, honestly. I needed that a year ago.
Hindsight, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What is something about you that we wouldn't know just from looking at your socials?
Well, I mean, maybe this is the time for that story that I was telling you about, because my current socials would not have you know this at all, because I think my business account has like 400 followers or something. It's very small.
Right.
A few years ago, like my music production account got up to, I think, 10K on Instagram, like very quickly, like way more quickly than I was ready for. And this could even, go into the advice that I was just giving. But like, I was still very much a beginner at this time. And I was like, would it be fun if I put my beats on Instagram and made some videos or whatever. And I think within like 3 months, my following went from like 0 to 10K. Yeah. Like it was very quick, very quick. And I was suddenly getting all this influx that I did not know what to do with. And like, I kept up with that until like 2023. 2023 is kind of the year that I was like, okay, I'm going to pause the music production and like just table my dream of like being an artist, like being a touring artist, playing my own music and stuff. Because at that point, like I was definitely producing for other people and I was no longer trying to really get good at what I do. Like I was producing beats for the minute-long clip and then it would just sit on my hard drive for years and years and collect dust. And that is not the relationship that I wanted to have with my own music. I was giving myself the ick every day when I would try to sit down and make something new. And I'd just be like, oh, I don't like it. Like I just felt like I had soured the relationship that I had worked my entire life to build with music by making it so visible so soon.
Okay.
So at this time, I am still trying to figure out what like a good relationship to it looks like. I know that it includes DJing because that one doesn't have like my feelings wrapped up in it so much as it did with the music that I was making, from scratch.
When you say DJing, do you picture yourself as being like kind of like a faceless DJ, like how nobody knows what Tiesto looks like, or like a David Guetta when he's like one of the most recognizable DJs, or like a Deadmau5 with like the
No, I mean, I'm fine to be myself. I played a lot of like live in-person gigs. Like when I play a DJ gig, I'm not coming in a mask, like the DJing, I like releasing remote mixes, but mostly I like playing actual DJ gigs. I like being in there with the live energy. So that isn't an anonymous thing.
It's like your face with the brand. You know what I mean?
I'm fine with that because I'm not playing my own music. I think that's the personal part that I'm talking about, was like when I was producing my own music, it felt like the stakes were so much higher because this is like me, it's my identity, it's my music, But with DJing, I'm playing other people's music that I respect and appreciate, and I want people to like have this like perspective on. And so I'm really there more as a curator. Like it's not about me. So it kind of takes my ego out of it a little bit more, which I think for some people is very healthy.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like you can do it longer when it's more about the music and less about the avatar or the character. That makes sense. Yeah.
And also when it's less about the response to the music in an online setting, in an Instagram setting, like I just had gotten to a place where I didn't like anything I was making anymore. And I was kind of doing it mostly for other people because I felt like I had to post. I had to keep up with my schedule. I need the following to grow or something. Like I had just like chained myself to this like set of expectations that I just didn't need to be in.
It was art. Now it's a job.
Yeah. I'm like, it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah. So what's the best way that, people watch this and they want to support you? They either want to get plugged in with Wildwave or they want to hear your music. What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, if you have any interest in starting a podcast or you are already a podcaster, I would just love to be in your network in any way, just because I love talking to podcasters and I love picking people's brains on like, what is the podcast you want to launch? Why haven't you yet? Like more for market research purposes, So you can definitely check out my website. I'm going to put that in the show notes because that's my job. I think what I'll also do is I will link my DJ mix, my most recent one, in the show notes for people who are house heads and are fans of like, dance music, house and techno, kind of more like the underground stuff, like the deeper house. That is my bread and butter. That is like absolutely what I love. And so recently I had put out a mix that accompanied the release of my new podcast production website because my website is rave themed. So that was kind of the way that I was able to like nod to my roots musically, and give myself more of like a creative outlet in the realm of business, you know? And so the Ravey website came out, and so did the Ravey mix. So
love it.
I will put all those in the show notes for you.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you not just for your time, but this little mini dream I had of like having like just like a little show in some corner of the internet somewhere. You helped make it come true. So I want to thank you for that as well. And
definitely couldn't have done it without you.
Oh,
you are the engine. do not forget that. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Hey, and the rest of you, thank you so much for joining us for Loves Music. Make sure you check us out every Thursday. New episodes go up. And if you like what you heard here today, please tell somebody who loves music. Take care.
Tell someone who loves music.